Good morning from Porto, Portugal, for another show of the parable of the madman. So, today we're going to speak about government intervention in markets. Okay, in general, our shows is about the cost of living, how we fight, how to fight, how to survive this, because we know in history the economy is one time up, one time down. Our strategy and our not even is our goal is to survive um, uh, those difficult times. So one of the voices that we hear now is to say, well, the government should interfere or intervene in the markets by controlling prices or by subsidize and there is a phrase that say, "I'm against subsidize the product. I'm pro subsidize for those who need it." Because subsidizing the government subsidizing products is a very risky and unclear move. So, is there any approach that crack the method? Is there a country in the world that implement in a good way, because there's nothing is perfect, the balance and proper social economic approach? So probably the answer for this question is no. After all, it's about the balance, and it depends a lot of how we measure success. To this day, most indicators of economic success are measured in absolute numbers, such as per capita income, production, and etc. But is a country that produces such as per capita income product? I'm sorry for the prompter is a little bit. We have difficulties with that. Let's uh, uh, let's make the question a little bit more clear. If we are seeing now, okay, people are mostly measure success of a country by how much money she produce or how much money per person the country make. The question is it the only indication of success of a country? Okay, if it's necessarily indicates on success. Um, let's take another indicator. What about the gaps between rich and poor in a country? We know that once this gap is too big, it maybe indicates that the country makes money, okay, but is it indicates on the success of the country? And our approach to say that we want to make another way to see things, because as you already understand, we are pro learning, we are pro approaching with scientific method for problems. And again, there is a professor, Israeli professor called Dan Israeli. He is a very famous professor that wrote several of researches and books under the name "Not Rational and Not by Mistake." The Homo sapiens is not rational. We are not a rational, although we really want to think that, yeah, I'm not impulsive, I'm making a rational decision. But as a Homo sapiens, and I'm continue to choose this phrase because it's putting every conversation in a context that we are part of the wildlife. Okay, we are an animal that was evolved into a situation that now we have a conscience and we have a thinking. So nowadays we want to think, well, everything is rational and we need to make a rational decision. And in his research, he show time after time that we are choosing, okay, not to make a rational decision, because part of our evolutionary necessary needs is that we are not rational animals. Um, so let's start to understand again. We're speaking about government intervention or and how it should be done, and trying to make another scale of success to a country. And after a research of 2 years that we're going to publish very soon, I want to make in a very easy way the new scale for a success of a country. But let's start from maybe the beginning. Why does the Homo sapiens start to gathering in a state, city state forms of living? Because we know the first Homo sapiens is mostly small groups as tribes that was wandering around Earth, and in one time in history, again we know it's happened in a different ways, in a different places around this time. 6,000 years ago, here in our area, it was in Mesopotamia, that in Iran and Iraq. In North America, we have in Mexico, we have evidence of big cities that are like country. So anthropologists and sociologists assuming that once the Homo sapiens learn how to write, it was easier to create one governmental system to control the communication between the individuals. Okay? Because now we can write, we can document the economy between us, we can document the distribution that we have between us, and of course security is one of the reason, main big reason that Homo sapiens gather. But even before these big cities, they lived together in order to, because we are a very socialist animal. But creating one big government helped the Homo sapiens to survive. So we see that we choose to create a governments or a countries or city countries. So and it's helped us to keep ourselves progress. Although again, not every time is a good progress. Not all progress is a good progress. Um, but unlike, I'm sure. By the way, I'm sure that our countries, the modern country, is not in the same vision that the first Homo sapiens was creating their countries, because we know our ideas evolve from monarchies to democracies. And by the way, this is maybe the place to say that even nowadays, not every democracy is like the other democracy, because even in democracies we have different types. Britain, for example, is not a democracy at all. It's a modern constitution. Maybe we can say that even in the United States, it's not a pure democracy. Again, we are we are pro of developing the government system as much as we can to adapt to the people that are sitting in this country. So nowadays, if in the old cities that was big in comparing to the villages, now we have a different problem. On this planet, we're living 8 billions Homo sapiens. 8 billions Homo sapiens in one planet with limited resources that needs to be at least needs to be for everyone to survive. Again, and this is what we are speaking about, the difference between surviving and living with dignity. I just want to repeat our assumptions because part of our discussion with the public is Oh, again, you say there is 8 million people, 8 billion people, and now we need to provide food for everyone, we need to provide things to everyone, so you want it to be cheap or to be free. So, no, nothing is free, life is not cheap, and Robin Hood is a criminal who acts against the law. And the distribution of money does not create equality but distortion of reality and justice. So we don't say give money, okay? We just say we need to divide it differently. So, but the balance can exist according to the following division. This is what we're trying to approach. We determined 4 areas that, in our opinion, the state or the community as a collective should monitor and produce viable alternative for following reasons. Um, we divided. Let's start from the bottom. We say, okay, live. What is living with dignity? With dignity is the able of not how much money you make, it's how strong your money to provide not only the needs, is also to provide the wants. And again, nothing is free. Not everyone tomorrow will wear Gucci or Prada or flying first class, because although many people want it, not everything you want you will get. But there is things that we will speak about. What is the wants that is including in the definition of life with dignity. So let's speak about these 4 areas. Medicine. Medicine is available to everyone. Should be available to everyone. Medicine is dealing with life and death of the individual and must be under strict regulation, since it's developing a product that's have actual influence on the life and death of the individual. Also, regulation on the field can create let's say it can create a restriction of the controlling of the prices, not from the way that the government say to the private company, okay, listen, you created a nice cancer, good cancer solution or medication, give it for free or give it for cheap. Not in this way. If as a country we say, I don't interfere, it's a free market. If you want to spend your money on cancer research, if you succeed, you succeed. You don't succeed, you don't succeed. So this person will say, okay, I put my money, I risk my money, and now I finally make a discovery, and I want to charge as much as I can. He's right, logically, illegally, morally, he's right. He can charge how many he can, and what's happening? So, socialist country or more socialist country like Europe doesn't have a lot of choice, and they go into this company, private company, and buying in the real price and subsidize the product for the people, and it costs a lot. We want to change again the change the mentality of how we react with those kinds of issues. We say the government, the collective, say medicine is a fundamentalist right of every person on earth. We, in the collective money, in the people money, will subsidize the research. Okay, it's a private company, but a public fund. So once you're doing it, you say, okay, it's not only for profit. Profit is it's important. We want to return our money to the public, okay, but we can control the price. You don't do it only for profit, because again, everything is a balance. No right is absolute. Not even the right of life, because, for example, we know in the United States and other countries there is a death row, death punishment. So if life was an absolute right, no one been killed, or at least not in the legal system. In wars is something else. But so we see that nothing is absolute. We need to find a balance. So if if let's say the company is governmental or private company with the public funds, so you can always say, okay, you earn money, but you don't do it only for the money, and then it's good for everyone because maybe you put money and in part of the research you lose money, part of the research you earn money, and you can again, a country is not a business. She should be run as a business, not in order to lose money, but it doesn't need to make money for profit for the shareholders. The shareholders of a country is their citizens. So medicine is a very important field that we should be under regulation of the country to say, listen, good, there are people that want to develop or research, but we need to control in order, if we control and put the money, we don't need to buy it after in a very big amount of money. So this is one of the fields. The other one is affordable housing in a renting field. We cannot do anything against it. Not everyone will live in Manhattan or Monaco. Okay, not everyone will have a sea view house, but everyone is entitled for four walls and a ceiling and something that can be worth to call a home. Everyone. So why in renting field and not in selling? There is a phrase that say if something is cheap and in this field you could consume much more, you're making for example electricity. If electricity was cheap, so you will say to yourself, you know what, I will not close my lights in the home and I keep consuming because it's cheap. So again, everything in life is a balance. Medicine is not a consuming product. Okay, you will not go to do CT, MRI or Röntgen every day because it's free. But housing, if will be cheap, okay, people will buy, and then will be a shortage of it or lack of lands or whatever. Okay, so we don't want to sell properties in cheap or control the rent, the prices of selling houses because the market needs to balance itself. But in the renting, because not everyone is earning enough money to buy, mostly in expensive cities or expensive places, countries. So we say in the renting, in the long-term renting, the collective and the state or community should have affordable housing for their people to say, you know what, you cannot buy, no problem. You can rent for life. And by the way, if you are doing a control rent by regulation, and again, if we are just because there are countries, even the United States, they doing it in a way to say for the private companies, if you building 1,000 units, you need to have at least 20% of affordable housing. But it's not fair. It's a private money. If you're using private money, you don't have any moral rights to say to the person what to do with his money. So if we say this housing, rent housing, is fundamentalist, a right for every human, so from the beginning we say it's not only for profit. Whoever has the money can buy. There's still the option to have profits. I don't say it doesn't hurt the economy. It just control the places for the people that are a lot of people that are living in bad conditions. So if you are controlling again the public or semi-public or private companies that want to deal with affordable housing, that getting some benefits from the government, there is a lot of ways to promote it. But at the end of the day, if it's a private money, they should do whatever they want with the money. If we want to promote affordable housing, it should be after under the country or the public money, or do something in order to say in this field it doesn't need to be only about the profit. Um, Housing is not consuming a field because again, if it's selling, it is consuming because people can buy how many houses they want. But in renting, even if someone will say, okay, I will rent 10 apartments because it's cheap, and I will rent it for other people in order to have a passive income, from the beginning, people will report on this phenomenon, and this will be stopped almost immediately because it's everyone know this project is a control rent, so they know about the price and people cannot take advantage about it. By the way, there's no system in the world that provides zero criminal activity. Okay, there's no system in the world to provide 100% sure that no one take advantage of the system. But our as a government or as a society have the obligation to pursue for minimum criminal activity. So this is about housing. We spoke about medicine, we spoke about housing. Now let's speak about another field called education. Already we have in other many places of the world public education and private education. And I don't want to get into this discussion. Either the collective should force everyone to have one study narrative, or to let every group to have their own narrative, because shortage of time and lack of possibility to bring all the ideas. But this discussion is very, very important. But so I would just want to speak about the guideline. What is important for us in this field? Again, like in those other two fields, there's not only one goal. Okay, for example, for medicine, it's not only for making profit or housing. In education, it's not only about the grades or the academic success, because all is education institutional from kindergarten to universities. They have another goal in a country, is to make solidarity in their own communities. Okay, is to create the guarantee between the people in this country in order for us to live together. So once we say, okay, it's all private, or who have money can afford good education, and those in the public education doesn't, we need to have at least regulation to show that we need to keep something that is common for all type of education. I will give you theoretical example to show you what is the problem with all, to give full independence. Let's say for just a second, I don't think it's a heart attack. No, I think it was the metro. We had for a moment everything was moved, but in my opinion it was the metro. We are, as you can see, we are in the city center of Porto. From this side you can see Casa de Música. This side, this is Casa de Música, and down is the metro of the Casa de Música. So I think we felt the power of the metro. Let's take hypothetical case. Let's say a state will say, if you have money, open your own educational institution, we don't care. Teach whatever you want, okay? And this person have some ideas, some values that is not belongs or doesn't reflect the public ideas or values. And what's happening to community or society that have too much differences, the solidarity is collapsing, and this state is doomed for falling apart, or at least doesn't have currency to continue as one country. And we have a lot of this example in the world. Again, not every war and then not started with education, but it does mean that a collective, the state should have some say about the education of their people. The last field is food. Food, again, we will put it on the table. Not everyone will eat caviar, or and not everyone will eat a whale tail soup like they have in, I don't remember, Japan, that costs $1,000 for a bowl. Okay, we don't say that the rare should be common, because the resources of our planet is limited. We have limited supply of meat, limited supply of vegetables, but we should say that not all we should have at least not processed food to be affordable for everyone. Again, the method says that if you take something, a field, and say, listen, in this field, this subject is fundamental part of our existence, so it doesn't need to be only for profit. It should have a profit, but not only for profit. And by the way, if we will check, I open Google, you open Google, check how much rich people you have in the world. There is definition about it. Out of 8 billion, if I will say 1 million, I will put high number. Again, so it's a 0.00 something of population that hold the majority of the money of the world. And by the way, they don't steal it. I will repeat this data. It's your money. In the end of the month, you're working very hard and you're giving your money for these people, and they doing whatever they want. In the food industry, the part of the country or the collective is to make sure that no monopoly and no cartel is being created. And nowadays we have a lot of monopoles in this industry, so it seems like there is a competition, but it's not really competition. And in the end of the world, at the end of the day, you paying more. Our job is to create equality, not by taking from the rich and giving to the poor, or spreading money for free, because nothing is free. Our goal is to make sure that everyone have at least the equal opportunity to make their own decision how to spend their money, and at least to have some saving, regardless to credit, because nowadays in the modern day everyone is like surviving the month, but mostly on credit. So we had four fields that, in our opinion, the government should have, from part regulation for full regulation, in order to create a possibility of affordable life. We're saying it as a private company, but if a country will do it, it will be better, because a country have much more resource. The country can do it by giving tax return or tax benefits, or in some way to encourage more private companies like we to enter this field of affordable. And I will remind you, minimum wage everywhere in the world, if you count every money that in the end of the day is spended, you don't say, I kept all my money, kept all my salary aside. The percentages of people that can do it is very, very small. Okay, I put it aside and then I didn't spend it. Most of us spend all our money until, I wish it was until the end of the month. It's probably somewhere in the middle. It's already run out. So you giving your money for what? For getting surviving mode. So by joining us, by even in a very simple way. You're seeing this video, give us a like. You're seeing this video, share it, comment, join in our website in order to make our group bigger, our community bigger. In that way, we can help you to save your money. Again, our goal is at least from everywhere we are, minimum wage, at least 10% is for saving. It's very easy to go for credit, but we need to remember easy money or free money. There's nothing free, but let's say they sell it as a free money. It's in the end of the day, it's not your money. You need to take care of your future. I will give one example. You can enter our website to check Eureka Market and check the prices. If you need from cable USB to I think there is even refrigerators, even houses. You know what? We are dealing with housing. We have. I will give it's a good example. Here in Portugal, the land is cheap. Not in the main city. Again, it's we against interfering in the market. But if you're going a little bit far, the land is cheap. Now you're buying a land for doesn't matter how much. You can afford it even with a minimum wage. You're buying a land. Now you have a question how to build. You can build a brick house like this, okay, this brick house, and pay millions or hundreds of thousands of euro. Okay, you can work smart. Sorry, you can work smart and check for mobility house, sustainable houses. Because by the way, the good things about sustainable house is that you earning your time. You're earning time to create more money to build in the future whatever you want. You don't need to obligate from now for a permanent house and say, oh, this is what I stuck with and paying mortgage for 30 or 40 years. Sustainable house is not only affordable, it's a good way because it's affordable house. A sustainable house is, let's say, good for 20 years before it will fall apart. And let's telling the truth, it's not forever. But in those 20 years, you can save because you don't take a mortgage to buy it. And in Portugal, because of a lot of reasons, if you check for sustainable houses, new ones is around 25,000. We selling it for 13,000 for T1, T2. It starts with 13,000, including mobility, to including the from the port to your land, including the building. So you're paying 13, 40, doesn't matter, and it's yours for 20 years. What you do with your money, we help you save. It's only the change of the mentality of how we think about those issues. So in the next show, we will speak about the wants. Okay, what is the wants that we think is inside the definition of living with dignity. Until then, follow us, share your thoughts with us. We are available in every platform, and I want from here to greet everyone with a nice day and a safe one, and see you tomorrow.